Welcome into another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview, presented by RiverLand Roofing. I'm Neil McCready, joined as always by MPW digital football expert Pete DeWeese, joining us from his home in Georgia as we tape this on Wednesday night. I normally don't tell people, hey, here's when we tape this, but I'm doing it this time because obviously I won't say definitively that Pete doesn't know, but I'm going to assume that Pete doesn't know any more about the Austin Simmons situation than I do. So we're recording this a little bit with just a huge unknown, not knowing what Ole Miss will do at quarterback, whether Austin Simmons will play. If he does play, how limited would he be? Those are just answers that I don't know. We have some sourcing on some things, but it is Wednesday, and sometimes injuries that are bad on Wednesday aren't as bad on Saturday, and sometimes they are. So it's hard to completely address that. It is clear that as we tape this on Wednesday that Austin Simmons has a significant ankle injury that at least has his situation in some degree of doubt. So we will address that momentarily. We'll also get ready. We'll talk a little bit about the Kentucky game. Ole Miss beats Kentucky last week 30-23 in Lexington. The Rebels this week, of course, play Arkansas. It's the home SEC opener for Ole Miss. Ole Miss 2-0 on the season. Arkansas 2-0 on the season, having dispatched of Alabama A&M and Arkansas State with relative ease. So two teams 2-0 heading into this. It's Arkansas's SEC opener, 6 o'clock SEC. I'm sorry, 6 o'clock ESPN is the broadcast. It's Pash and Taylor McGregor and that crew. So should be a fun weekend here in Oxford. Expecting huge crowds, a lot of people coming in for this game. A little hot, so be careful if you're out in the heat in the Grove and whatnot. But it should be a lot of fun. I guess Pete, I'll tell people about RiverLand in a moment. But first, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good. Glad to be here.
Good. All right, we'll dive into some stuff in a minute. First, this show made possible by our friends at RiverLand Roofing. When it comes to durable, high-performance roofing, RiverLand stands above the rest as a licensed, insured, and GAF Master Elite certified roof replacement contractor with more than 60 years of combined experience. RiverLand specializes in helping in roof repairs, replacements and maintenance for both residential and commercial properties. RiverLand Roofing combines expert craftsmanship with cutting-edge roofing technology to ensure long-lasting protection for your home or business. Their team of manufacturer-trained specialists deliver top-tier service while staying within your budget. Whether you need a minor roof repair or a complete roof replacement, RiverLand provides customized solutions tailored to your needs. To learn more, call RiverLand at 662-644-4297 or visit their website, riverlandroofing.com. Please make sure you tell RiverLand that you heard about them on MPW Digital. All right, Pete, let's dive into the Simmons thing real quick. In a world where he can't go, or let's start here. In a world, because I think this is more likely, in a world where he dresses and tries to give it a go, as a coach, at what point do you look at a player on the field and say, this is my better quarterback, but he's so limited that I'm better off going with someone else?
You know, I think for a kid like Simmons, who is athletic and is a big frame and a big body and can use his legs, and he's shown the ability to do that when things break down around him, but we've also seen them use it as part of part of the scheme and part of the run game. When he becomes one-dimensional because he lacks mobility, it becomes a liability. You can't. The offensive line at this point has not shown the ability to just consistently control the pocket. They will play, a solid defensive front this week. And so if you feel like he's going to be sitting back there and it's starting to create negative plays, whether it's because he's making bad decisions with his arm or because he can't save himself with his legs, that's probably when you have to start looking at things a little bit differently. If you feel like you can hand the ball off and control the game with your run game and get the ball out of the quarterback's hand quickly, that's a little different. But the more you feel like you're going to have to put things on his plate and he's going to potentially have to, maneuver himself around if that ankle is an issue. That's when, as a coach, you start to look at, is this the most viable option for us in this scenario?
So I was literally, in case you're wondering what I was doing, Chase was just sending me a long text of a post he's getting ready to make on the board where apparently Ole Miss listed Simmons as probable, which goes completely against everything we've been told. But again, it's Wednesday, and coaches, I think, take more liberty with the injury report on Wednesday than they do later in the week. In a world, and I don't think this is likely, in a world where he can't go, and it's Trinidad Chambliss. I know you've watched him some at Ferris. What do you think of him as a player, and what would the challenges be for Ole Miss with him running the offense?
What I can answer for you is how much the passing game, particularly the drop back game, has to change. I mean, the kid threw for 2,900 yards last year at Ferris, so it's not like he came to Ole Miss as a run only quarterback, or even a run first quarterback. I don't care what level it is. I don't care who you're playing against. Throwing for 2,900 yards in a season, in addition to what they did as a rushing offense, shows your ability to digest and distribute the football. So you certainly can't treat him as one dimensional. How much of the true drop back game is in his package and has been in his package? I mean, listen, he clearly went into the game with a series of things last week, but that they didn't build that series August 1st or whatever the first day that they were allowed to start practicing. He was running the offense, right? And so it's not like he's going to be doing anything new. The interesting aspect is obviously Ole Miss is going to know his game better than Arkansas. And so if you're Arkansas and you build the game around one quarterback and then suddenly the scheme changes and you have to be a little bit more accountable for the quarterback in the run game, how does that affect you? I think that if he were to play, there's a lot of interesting things from a coaching standpoint and just from a game planning, structure, play calling dynamic that could change. In particular, if Luke Haas is back, and that was actually one of the things I was just going to briefly touch on tonight was the emergence of a second tight end in the Kentucky game. When Bruckler came in, did a good job in the run game, had one great catch and got his hands on a couple other balls, showing you that he can play the position. And then if you add Haas back into the mix, and now you're talking about potentially a quarterback run game with 2 or even 3 tight ends in certain situations, that looks a little bit different than when Austin Simmons is in the backfield by himself with one tight end and Lacey, And so there are a lot of different wrinkles, I think. Obviously, I mean, listen, you're talking about with Chambliss in the game, every snap, you better account for the quarterback as a runner. That doesn't mean Ole Miss is going to use him as a runner on every play, but right now, I don't think that's the way people are defending Austin Simmons, and I think that's part of why you kept seeing his number get called some against Kentucky, because the hats existed. The math made sense because safeties were deep, play the pass, so let's add the quarterback as a runner and use it to cheat extra yards, in particular in the red zone. Well, now, if you start adding secondary support to the box and you start having to do things to account for this athletic quarterback, if Ole Miss can take advantage of things down the field, because they've shown that they do have a talented receiving core, then there's a chance for them to create some real big plays down the field in the passing game as well.
Any big takeaways before we start switching to Arkansas? Any big takeaways from the Kentucky game?
I think I don't think anybody can be pleased necessarily with the way that Ole Miss played. I also think that Ole Miss probably left the game in some regard feeling a little better about certain things. I mean, there were times where they ran the ball very effectively. They certainly have to feel good about running back one. Their receiver still showed the ability to make plays, and defensively they're still figuring it out a little bit. But for the most part, they were a pretty effective unit.
I thought so too. Am I crazy to think that the offensive line's better than people are giving it credit for? I know there's some PFF grades and stuff, but that's weird stuff.
I don't. I'm not always the biggest fan of the PFF stuff. So sometimes it's not that I'm saying the data is flawed or skewed, and I'm certainly not throwing them under the bus. But if you don't know the playbook and you don't know the assignment, and you don't know the communication happening on the field, how can you accurately grade that person?
Right. 100%.
And that's a big thing for me when I look at those grades is you don't know what the hell he was actually supposed to do. You know what you think he was supposed to do.
Right.
And that makes a big difference. Honestly, I don't feel bad about the offensive line. There are negative plays that exist that absolutely happens. But sometimes it's not about the offensive line. And to be honest with you, first clip I'm going to show you tonight is immediately the message board and Twitter exploded talking about the offensive line because it's first drive of the game and Simmons falls forward for a yard and it's almost a sack. The offensive line was not the issue, right? And so I do think that there's times where anybody can watch a game and go, well, why aren't we getting movement up front? Why aren't we able to run the ball effectively? But there's a lot of times where the offensive line, kind of like the kicker, that they get called out for something because everybody sees it and it feels like it's the obvious thing when the reality is the snap may have been bad, the hold may have been bad. There's all these other variables at place that maybe people just don't get to see. Right. And so that's we'll just kind of use that as a natural segue.
Yep. Floor is yours.
To get into it because, like I said, we're early in the game here. Third down, I think it's a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, it looks like. And Ole Miss has the look that they want. And live, it does look like a pressure situation. The reality is it's a great job in coverage, but even past that, Austin Simmons misses a guy. The way the concept is designed to work, he misses a guy that would have been open to give him the stick. So what Ole Miss is trying to do here is work on the left-hand side. They're trying to work what's a version of what's known as a dagger concept. So the goal is to take the number 3 receiver, and you're going to run him vertical to cross face on that safety and try to carry that safety out of there and get him away from the play. The second receiver is going to push forward, stop to try to control this player and work back outside. And then the outside player is going to come underneath on a dig route. Now, the variation that Ole Miss runs here, I believe, is actually going to take the outside player and they're going to put him in this window in front of this linebacker, strong safety, and he's going to work back out. And they're going to take the number 2 receiver that's lined up right here on the hash, and he's going to become the dig player. So it's the same concept, fundamental concept. Everybody does it. But what they're trying to do here is just switch the releases right here to get a guy into the window quicker. So if you run this effectively, the linebacker is going to try to carry this corner route. The safety is going to carry the corner route. You're going to be able to create a window from where the inside linebacker, who's kind of plussed out here, removes, and the expansion by this strong safety to the field. So if Austin Simmons is going through his progression, he's going to peek this post, but what he's truly trying to do, if he likes his numbers, is work the dig back to his check down. So right here, the Caden Lee, I believe is number 3, gets kind of pushed and walled outside is what we call that. And he gets pushed outside, and then we already, Ole Miss has probably too tight of a split between the number 2 and number 3 receivers. So when the number 2 guy gets funneled inside, he and Caden end up on top of each other. And I think it cloudies the picture for the quarterback, and he doesn't get the full window the way he wants it because right there they both look to be collisioned, and he's not getting a clear picture of what's about to happen. If he steps up and stays in the read, Caden is breaking vertical. The dig is about to break right here, and you can see the concept has divided the linebackers. This linebacker has been pulled out to Daquan Wright, who's running this little pivot route. The running back expanding has pulled the backside linebacker. The backside safety is not a threat if I throw the ball on time. And there's the dig right there, ready for the football with plenty of opportunity. The pocket is still clean. And here, Simmons just holds on to it a little bit, doesn't trust his progression, and starts to use his legs and kind of falls forward for a yard. So you can see it better here from the end zone clip. The pre-snap, this is the picture you want. The middle of the field that you're trying to attack is already open. So as he gets into his drop, his eyes are right where you want him to be. He should see that space right now, And right here, you want him to stick that foot in the ground and throw the dig to number 2, sitting right there past the sticks, and move the chains. He doesn't trust it for some reason. So instead, I don't know if it's just feeling the heat of the pocket, not trusting what he sees, but he tucks it and tries to take off and just kind of falls forward for a 1-yard gain.
Is that where Lane Kiffin's talking about sometimes he's feeling pressure that's not real?
That 1,000%. The more experience you get in the pocket, the more you start to trust your offensive line. You step up in this pocket and the ball is out and throwing that dig window right now, and the sticks are moving. Your first down, go Rebs, right? But he kind of feels this pressure right here that should not affect him the way that it does. Because even now, if he just slides up, he can dip this thing off right now to 2. Is it going to be the most accurate ball? Is it going to be a little bit late? No, right? But that you have designed by concept, got the exact look that you want. The defense is giving you a favorable presentation for it. The concept works. If you're on time, everything's good. And Simmons just kind of feels the ghost right there and doesn't take advantage of the concept. And like I said, message boards are blowing up about the offensive line. That's still part of quarterback maturity.
And I kind of wonder,
offensive line play.
You would know this better than me, but I kind of wonder with young quarterbacks too, if there's a, like, in the NFL, like you'll hear quarterbacks say, well, no one's ever open. You're throwing to a player, you're throwing to
absolutely.
They're never open. When you play high school ball, sometimes you get a mismatch and somebody is open.
Guys are open, absolutely.
And you get that in college too, but it's not as much, right? And this was, you step up into SEC play and guys aren't going to be as open against Kentucky as they were against Georgia State, and maybe that makes you a little tentative just for a beat.
Windows are going to close a lot faster. The pass rush is going to be better. Absolutely. Just everything kind of speeds up just a little bit. So, going on right here, to the next clip. So one thing that Ole Miss has done a great job of, and it's something, again, that we talked about a little bit last week and something that Charlie Weiss Jr. talked about in press conferences before the season, is adjusting their formations to be able to help them and aid them in the run game. And this is the type of example where they're using this condensed formation to get Caden Lee to diagnose who's the most dangerous threat. And what they want him to do is get here to this safety, okay? And if the run play is blocked like it's supposed to be, now you have a chance to cut off of him and make a big play. Now, what ends up happening on this particular scheme right here is Ole Miss loses one of their combos, okay? And it's not so much about losing the combo as it is about directing the combo. What it looks like from a combo standpoint is these two linemen, and I'm going to go to the end zone copy. The left tackle and left guard are working a double team out to the overhang defender, which means that the center and the backside guard now have to work to number 3. The action here, he's going to become the B-gap player. If the defensive end goes outside, the left tackle or the right tackle, will climb for number 7. If this defensive end stays inside, the tackle takes him, but that means that you anticipate 7 going across with the action by the tight end. So what happens here is the center and the backside guard get caught up a little bit on the nose. And because the backside guard is not able to take over the combo, the center can't work up to number 3, and number 3 remains in the hole unblocked right there to make the play. Otherwise, if you can get the center to number 3 right there to the linebacker, you actually have a pretty solid play. The other thing that can happen is, and it's really what's trying to happen, and we talk about continuity at the offensive line scrimmage. The right guard right here understands that this defensive lineman is working this direction. The reality of him taking that guy over is going to be very difficult. So he's trying to work a technique where he's going to take this backside hand and shove him forward into the gap to create a cutback lane for his running back. Now, he's got to trust his backside tackle to handle his job, And he actually does. He gets underneath it right there and handles it. If the right guard can get 97 moving horizontally this direction, one, it makes it more difficult for number 3 to fit the football, but you can see where the cutback lane had potential to happen. The pad level by the backside tackle, he's so high right here that number 90 gets underneath him and is able to get just enough leverage on him to kind of force him into the hole. And 75 doesn't get enough leverage to work the defensive tackle across, and it kind of plugs them up. If they get that cut, here comes Caden Lee to fit the safety, and now that's where you start to see those explosive runs happen. So Ole Miss has made some really good adjustments to creating angles in their run game, and I also think that the receivers, who are a big part of those adjustments, have really, really bought into things. Okay. All right, here. Okay. Ole Miss is trying to work a double move. They what they watched for, okay, and let me go back because I packaged these two plays together for a reason. Somebody in the box, one of those analysts, graduate assistants, Weiss himself, somebody in the box is watching how are they fitting the run. And as soon as this safety gets aggressive, so this is the previous play we just watched. As soon as this safety gets aggressive and wants to become part of the run action, and you've been trying to go block him with this receiver, now you make him susceptible to a play action pass. So there he is. He's being aggressive. Okay? So Ole Miss comes back the very next play, and they want to try to take advantage of that aggression. So they're going to show the same look where I'm going inside to go block him, and you're trying to get him to come down so that you can double move and go past him. They're going to take 8, and they're going to try to make it look like they're trying to arc to block on the perimeter, and then he's going to release late, and they're going to use a play action, including a pulling guard, to try and further influence that safety. Now, the coverage structure here has changed for Kentucky. Okay, the safety is not as aggressive. So they try to work the double move. 11 does a nice job trying to set it up and sell it, and arguably does get a little bit of separation, but because the safety doesn't come down, this is a one shot. Ball's designed to go here. My outlet is here. So again, we talk about the growth and maturity of the quarterback. This is actually a really nice job of getting to the second guy in his progression, realizing that somebody's over the top, he's not open. You could argue that he could maybe back shoulder this football, and down the road, that's what you want to see from a more experienced quarterback. But Simmons actually just throws this one's out of bounds over his head and lives to play the next play. You know, this is that growth we talked about from the previous week of not forcing the ball into bad situations, which is ironically what we're going to show you next. But I thought this is a nice job of understanding the layers of play calling from an offensive standpoint. Is you get one clip, safety's aggressive, fits the run, the very next play you try to come back and take advantage of that same technique. The defense plays a little bit different, but we do get to see Simmons kind of progress in his decision making. So moving forward, next drive, I believe, might even be 2 drives down the road, okay? This is the first interception.
I was going to say, I almost recognize this moment. Like, here we go.
So, sneak Caden Lee into the backfield. I believe this is Lacey out wide now, okay? They're going to try to run a concept that I saw it called several times over the weekend. So, they're going to take this outside receiver and push him on a post. They're going to take the tight end here. They're going to work him out to try to expand the flat player. And they're going to release Caden Lee vertical and then on this deep corner route. It's been around for a while. It's not a new concept. Ole Miss, when Ole Miss came to Georgia Tech a few years ago, Jordan Watkins out of the backfield for a big play early in that game on this exact concept. What ends up happening right here, as you watch it, bad snap 1. He has to deal with that. He gathers the ball, kind of resets, tries to gain composure. As Caden comes through and tries to release, he ends up with this linebacker right in his window, and as he goes to cut outside of him, this route is supposed to be, and I think Tyler actually talked about this maybe on one of your podcasts earlier in the week, but as Caden works vertical, you want him to push and end up here. As he pushes out, he ends up getting flattened out. So the flat defender, who's this corner that's defending this flat route, is able to fall back underneath because the busted route, this route should be thrown here. That's where you're aiming for this football. Instead, it gets thrown here. And that 5-yard difference allows one defender to now play both. And Simmons just poor aim, target on the ball, kind of flustered a little bit right there. And the corner is able to undercut it and make the play.
Is this one of those plays, Pete, where the long release that AJ McCarron talked about gives the corner just a split second more to see what's coming?
So to me, on this play, it's not the long release that helps the corner. It's the long release when the snap throws everything off and his timing, he doesn't have a good base. And look at his feet right here. We talk as quarterbacks about setting the hallway. If I'm trying to throw right here, I want to set my base and my hallway at my target so that I'm there. But if you look at his hip right here, because he never gets a base because of the snap, his hips are pointed here. So if he's trying to hit the X, but my hips are too open, my accuracy goes down. The arm gets out in front. The ball tends to lag behind a little bit. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of things. Now, you can see the low carriage of the ball right there as he kind of swoops the ball down, and that's what AJ's talking about on the pod. But to me, this is less about the corner seeing the long release, and it's more about the fact that he's not in rhythm. And when you add a long release to not being on schedule and being behind schedule, that's the kind of kiss of death, for a lack of a better word. The kid's got the arm strength to drive the ball into windows, but he has to anticipate and be on time to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to show you his next interception. I tell you what, actually, before that, I'm actually going to skip forward. The play that we just showed you where he ran through the interception, Ole Miss runs it again later in the game. Okay, this time down in the red zone. All right, now instead of putting Lacey out wide, they just put him in the backfield, but it's going to be the same thing. There's your post. There's your flat. There's the corner by the back. Okay? Here, look at the difference in his feet. He's set. He's got a base. Look at his hips. Last play, we looked at his feet were kind of scrambled and his hips were here. They are downfield. He is set, ready to make this throw into the window that he needs. Now, he doesn't feel like being patient right here. If he's patient, he can drop that ball in this window and it has a chance to be a touchdown, right?
Yep.
He feels the clock in his head, feels fast right now. And what he sees the corner chasing the post and nobody with leverage to get to the flat. So instead of waiting on what might not be a sure thing, he resets his feet, and he does feel the pressure here. The guard does get beat, and he takes his check down right there to the sideline. So same play, just much better execution on the actual play.
I said pretty pocket, and then a split second later, it wasn't pretty anymore.
And then a split second later, it falls apart.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing I highlighted last week. You just had a guy leaning in his pro. D lineman used hands, got away. This is the second interception from him in the game. Okay. And it's one where he sees what he wants. Okay. He sees that he's getting a cover two to the boundary. This safety being so far off the hash, he's there to take away the single receiver and be able to get over the top of it. So he knows that the coverage is split. That means that he basically has 2-on-1 if the back release is 2-on-2 over here with the potential of a third guy adding to coverage. But it also means that all this space in the middle of the field is unoccupied. So they're going to take Caden Lee here, and they're going to run him on this kind of skinny post right here. They're going to bring the outside guys underneath. If Caden can get access to that post and there's nothing there to take it away, it's a first down chain mover. You want to give him the football. What happens here, Caden's route is good. He's skinny. He breaks. The window is there. But again, now there's pressure. The pressure gets there. But look at his feet again. He takes that extra step, and he's just not quite square. Again, his hips are set like he's throwing the ball here. when what he's trying to do is throw the ball here. Part of that is just about not being comfortable in the pocket. Now,
can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I mean, it looks to me like this is a play where it's broken right at the beginning because the offensive lineman gets beat. Is this a play where I hate this analogy, especially on a day when our country is so politically divided and something happened. And I hate to use the war analogy, but is this one of those deals where you're better off losing the battle to win the war? Like take the sack, be done.
Yeah, I mean,
this was a bad
and even
play.
if it's not take the sack, right? I mean, listen, I've never played the quarterback position other than in the backyard and in 7-on-7, at practice. I've certainly never played it at this level.
I was the third.
So I honestly would love to
third
hear
string
you ask
quarterback.
that
I
same question.
took some snaps in practice. I was third string, Pete. I took some snaps in practice.
Well, okay. So you might have just as good of an answer as I do.
No, I don't. I'm kidding.
Same deal here, right? The center, he tries the quick set. He misses. He lunges. He's beat. Simmons right now, his eyes are here, and I think it's because he knows he wants number 3, Caden Lee, down the pipe right here, okay? But by the time he resets to it, the pressure's on him now. I mean, you'd love to say feel it, step up and away from it and deal this football, but the guy's virtually unblocked.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the reality is here, if the protection holds up any longer, I think you end up fine. But because of the pressure and he can't fully step into it and he just has to try to whip it out there, the ball floats and there's the safety making the play. Good protection. I think this is a completion. Poor protection forces poor mechanics. So to your answer, throwing the ball up over the middle of the field is never a good answer, or never a good thing, unless you really have a good read, time to progress, and time to throw the football on platform. And right here, he doesn't get the ability to do that. Ball sails, end up with the turnover. So I just wanted to show this real quick. Not going to spend a ton of time talking about it. A lot of people that watch this, if they played football in the 70s and 80s in Mississippi and even into the 90s, there's a good chance they were a wing tee offense and they were running some version of a buck sweep. This is one of the wrinkles to the Ole Miss run game that we've seen this year that has not really been there much in the past, and it's good to see. They're just blocking guys down. They're getting 2 pullers out. The first one is going to try to kick out if he can. The center is typically going to be on his own. The backside guard is going to pull to wrap for the force player, and they're getting a chance to get their running back on the edge. Now, they get the hold here called on the wide receiver, I believe. Okay, but you can see there's the 2 pullers right there. Kentucky doesn't do a great job of forcing the play. He just trusts his path, gets out late, and gets in the end zone right there. This is really an unfortunate thing, and hell, maybe there were 2 holds on the play because they called on 75 as well. It's an unfortunate thing. You can blame the offensive lineman all you want to. The right guard has been told that ball, when he kicks him out, is going to hit inside. So he's going to get hands on that guy and try to drive. When the running back bounces outside and the defender pulls away, the offensive lineman is not expecting that. It's a no-win situation for him at that point. You let the guy go and he makes the play. You hold on to him. It potentially gets the call right here, and that's exactly what happens right there on that portion of the play. And then you may have gotten the same thing a second time there in the end zone. But I like some of the wrinkles that Ole Miss has found to run the football. They like their running back, and they're doing a good job of it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one, but 2 things that popped up to me in the game that I thought were positives for Ole Miss. One, the emergence of a second tight end. Luke Haas came over from Arkansas. We know he's been absent. Maybe he plays this week, maybe he doesn't. But they were able to put Bruckler in, who's another guy that's got experience, a guy they brought in, I believe, from New Mexico or New Mexico State, came in from the portal. And, he was effective in the run game against Kentucky, but you also got to see his hands. He had 2 catches, I believe, including this really nice catch right here. It's the play that they scored on with DeQuan Wright in the Georgia State game for the first long touchdown. They go right back to the same thing here. They showed that they trust him to run the offense when he's in. And so, the more you can do with multiple tight ends, and I think it gives your offense so many more options. The other thing that I will say that I think a lot of Ole Miss fans might have been kind of glad to see, even though it wasn't effective, is people have complained for years, and people have asked me, why didn't Ole Miss run more screens? We don't ever run a running back screen. We don't ever do this. They actually tried to run a screen on Saturday against Kentucky. They tried to run it to the tight end, but it was a traditional screen nonetheless to the tight end. Kentucky just defended it well. So maybe Ole Miss fans will see screens come back into the offense. And again, if you're talking about a quarterback that's maybe limited in mobility, screens potentially give you a chance to slow down the pass rush and kind of protect your quarterback and not ask him to use his feet a ton. So I'm going to flip the script. I'm going to go to the Ole Miss defense, and I'm trying to balance moving quickly because I do have a lot I want to show you tonight without taking up too much time, but I also do want to make sure I'm explaining things. So, Neil, feel free to slow me down if we need more description or detail on anything. But I chose most of these clips, particularly because they are very much in the same vein of the things that you're going to see Bobby Petrino and the Arkansas offense try to use against Ole Miss on Saturday. So it's a way to evaluate, one, the Ole Miss defense, but two, kind of project and some similar scheme things. So this was a touchdown that ends up being called back by the officials, and Ole Miss really got away with one right here. Kentucky rather, is expecting this outside receiver to be on the ball. They're going to motion the tight end over and keep him off the ball, but I would anticipate that they were expecting this to be what's known as an overset. They are consciously making the inside receiver that's on the line ineligible, and they're doing that to create a numbers advantage. When Arkansas motions over, if this guy is going to remain off the ball, then the tight end now has to step on. Neither thing happens, so they end up with only 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. You have to have 7, which is why this play got called back, and Ole Miss is fortunate that it did. Kentucky is going to show a run play, a gap scheme run with pulling offensive linemen, and every lineman not pulling is going to act like they are blocking down in the run, and then they are going to go release into their lanes for the screen. You hope that the run action and the pull action influences the linebackers. You're going to take this guy's going to go take this man. The first lineman out, whether it's the center or the tackle, is going to take this backer or safety, and then everybody else is going to kind of get out and run the alley. Well, Kentucky gets exactly what they want. You see the guard pulls, the tackle hesitates, he releases, takes the first guy, center takes the next guy, and now they're off and running for an explosive play that puts them down in the red zone early in this football game. Ole Miss was fortunate that it got called back. Bobby Petrino is going to make you defend 53 1/3 yards of the field. He's going to make you defend every inch of it wide, and they are athletic enough at the receiver position. He is going to try to do some things to get the ball quickly into the hands of his receivers, and this type of screen play is the same type of thing that you might potentially see. Okay. Now, this particular play is 100% out of the Bobby Petrino playbook. There are not many people in football more that love the combination of a wheel route with some type of a post or a dig. Bobby Petrino is married to it. I'm sure at some point it caused some issues when he was riding a motorcycle in Fayetteville.
I knew it was coming.
Outside of that, the man loves a post or a dig and a wheel. Typically, there's going to be somebody from the backside coming on a drag route. So you create both vertical and horizontal stretches on the concept. So here, they are going to release. You can see here's the tight end working for a post or a dig. Here is the backside crossing route. Here's the tailback on the wheel. So as the quarterback, my typical progression is going to start with the wheel route. Let me erase my drawings here. Okay, so they're looking at the tailback first, most likely, okay? He may be eyes here on the safety first. He probably recognizes they've got the wheel taken care of. Eyes may be on the safety to see if he can take the vertical adjustment here by the tight end. If he doesn't like it, if this linebacker turns and collisions and runs with this, that means my drag from the backside should now be open and unoccupied. So there you get the inside linebacker in the corner, bracket the vertical release by the tight end. Perkins is going to take the running back out of the backfield there. Here comes the shallow right across the formation. Linebacker sees it late, goes to react, and the quarterback is really just honestly makes a poor decision. Now, that's almost a hell of a play by both Perkins and the offense, right? But honestly, the quarterback should feel this right here and right now find his shallow route and take what he can get.
I don't think Zach Calzada is going to get drafted. I'm just going to tell you now. I don't think he's playing in the National Football League. Hot take.
Yeah. At this point, you would hope his 9 years of college experience would tell him to get to my check down, right? And he's just late getting to it. He has to flush. Protection kind of affects him. Okay. But again, you're going to see this type of concept, a vertical post or dig with a wheel and a backside shallow route. You will see some combination of that no less than 8 times on Saturday from Bobby Petrino, from multiple formations, with motion, without motion, you name it. Okay. Again, something that Bobby Petrino loves to do. He likes to get into empty formations and create opportunities to get the ball out of his hand in a hurry. He likes doing what's known as formation into the boundary as well. That means you're going to put the strength of the formation to the short side of the field. Boundary is the short side of the field. Field is the wide side of the field. So to go FIB or formation into boundary, he's going to put his strength. 1, 2, 3 receivers. Okay. Petrino last week gets into a similar look and gets to the same landmarks as this concept, but he does it a little bit differently. What they're going to do right here is they're just going to push. He's going to run this little slot fade. He's going to hitch. On the backside, it's either going to be a corner or a slot fade with another hitch, most likely. And they're going to take this number 3 guy and they're going to push him right down the middle of the field. If this safety takes him, then you're expecting the number 3, the tight end in this case, having a mismatch on the linebacker. If the safety stays over the top of him and the corner does not bail, then you're going to throw the corner or the slot fade to your number 2 receiver. If the corner does bail, then you've got a wide open hitch. It's a very easy read. Take your check down, live and play the next play. The other side of the field is really only there for man-to-man situations. If you get one high and you get pressed, you can work your matchup to that side of the field. Here, Ole Miss rushes 3. The linebacker and the safety almost take each other out, but they do a nice job here of recognizing what they're trying to do. The linebacker ends up underneath the tight end, hoping he gets help over the top from the safety. The ball has to be perfect. It is not. And I'm going to show you, like I said, an example of Arkansas doing damn near the same thing. Okay. The very next play in the game. Okay. This is something that, again, from an Arkansas preparation standpoint, you have to do a better job of, in part because of how explosive they are as a runner at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
They are going to go right here. They are going to zone block the offensive line to the right of the offense. They're going to take these 2 tight ends, and they're going to arc them to the left, and they're running wide for the first and second threat that show. The tailback is going to get out with them and become a third blocker to that side. They're going to bring the receiver in motion. If the quarterback gets an over adjustment by the defense, he can potentially keep it and run the other direction. If the defense does not over adjust or react very much to the motion, he's going to flip this ball or hand it to the receiver, and you're going to try to outrun the Ole Miss defense. You are not worried about blocking this player. You are betting that your wide receiver is going to outrun him. So here comes the motion. There's the flip. Outrun the defensive end, which they barely get away with, but they do. But the tight ends have gotten outside. Ole Miss does not do a great job. You need your outside defender to come right now and set an edge, turn the ball back to the help. It doesn't happen. He gets reached. He goes inside. If the D end can't make this tackle, you now have a running back getting up to the next level, and you are out leveraged. And this easily could have been a touchdown for Kentucky right here. But at the same time, if Ole Miss can get their corner or safety, whoever this is, to come up outside and box it back in and turn it back to the help, it's a negative play for the offense. So Ole Miss has to do a better job of leveraging the football. Petrino and Arkansas are going to make sure that they understand, or that they can leverage the football, and if they can't, they're going to certainly take advantage of it. Again, this is something that, I showed you Ole Miss running buck sweep. Kentucky's most effective run play on Saturday was buck sweep, and you're going to see pin and pull buck sweep schemes from Arkansas as well. Kentucky found something by putting trips into the boundary and getting Ole Miss to commit multiple, a lot of times 4 defenders to it, which meant that your numbers are better to the field side. So when they run the ball back to the offense's left right here, and the defense has all or so many of their hats to the right, and you can see here the miscommunication. I would be willing to bet that either this defender or this linebacker, one, is supposed to expand while the other stays part of the run structure. Here, when the motion happens, miscommunication, both guys expand. You end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders for 3 bodies, and every defender's inside of 8 yards. It is never drawn up like that, ever. Now what that means is Perkins here is going to take on the first guard there, and his job is turn it back to help. He does it. This linebacker now is over the top of the second puller so that the ball should be now turned back. If this linebacker had not expanded but had stayed in the box, he would have scraped right over the top. They would have struggled to come off and block him, and he would have been sitting right there in the hole to make the tackle. But because the motion got him to expand, now the ball gets up to the safety, and it's a bigger gain. The flip side is if the backer expands and this player wants to come down the edge, now he's either A, going to make the tackle in the backfield, or B, the quarterback is going to pull the ball to either run or throw. So because of the motion and the miscommunication here by the Ole Miss defense, you see what could have been a minimal gain turn into a little bit more of a 5, 6, 7 yard run than what Pete Golding would have dialed up. Okay. So take those same schemes I just showed you, and we're going to go to this year. Okay. This is not coach's copy, but this is some of the best stuff I could find. So think about the same schemes I just showed you, transfer them now to Arkansas State from last weekend. Okay. Before I started recording this clip, this is actually the running back. He started here and he motioned out. They're going to get into that same type of concept that I showed you a minute ago. They're going to get into a post, a wheel. Here's going to be the backside shallow route. Okay. There it comes. I've actually got 3 guys to the front side, so it's going to be post. Will, when he can add a third guy, he's usually a dig player. Here comes the shallow. If they run with the wheel route, this linebacker's the read. If he stays on the tight end, throw the shallow. If he comes off the tight end, you throw it to that tight end before the backside linebacker can close the window. Very easy, simple progression for the quarterback. He's in the drop. He looks. All right, they're man-to-man on the post wheel. I don't love it. Where's my linebacker? He is mauling that dig route. That means my shallow's open. There it is. Let an athlete go be an athlete. It doesn't get a whole lot easier for a quarterback right here.
Yeah.
The progression is very simple. The manipulation of the defense is very simple, but it creates a one-on-one underneath with a skill player now in space running the football.
So let me interrupt you real quick, because the criticism of Taylor Green a year ago before the injury was that even on some simple progressions like this, he struggled. The people, and we're 2 games in, it's a very small sample size. It's Alabama A&M and Arkansas State, so it's no SEC opponents. We don't know. But some of the people who cover that program believe that he looks more comfortable making his reads. I know it's a very small sample size that you've seen, but do you agree with that?
I can't tell you I watched enough of him last year to say definitively. I would anticipate, and I would guess that he's certainly more comfortable. But to your point, it is Arkansas State, right? It is not. How's it look? Now, one of the most concerning things to me about last weekend, and I think Pete, to some degree, has been a little simple defensively. I don't think he's really peeled everything back yet, whether that's by design or it's by necessity to help his players. Ole Miss's inability to generate a lot of pass rush with 4 guys, which is something they were the best in the country at last year.
Yeah.
Arguably. Their inability to do that consistently right now is probably a little bit of a concern. And so the question is, if we can blitz 3, blitz 4, and play coverage, you make that guy make the read now, right? If you can do that and get pressure. You blitz 5, you blitz 6, you're less guys in coverage now. Quarterback's got to make a quicker decision, but there's also bigger gaps, more space to throw the football. So I am real curious to kind of see how that plays out. But if Ole Miss can control the pocket, because they dominated the pocket in the line of scrimmage last year in this very game, if they can do close to the same thing, they're going to be much, it's going to force Green to really go through the progression and really run the offense. Okay. This was actually just a little bit earlier. Showed you buck sweep earlier from the Ole Miss offense. Showed it to you from the Kentucky offense. Here it is from this Arkansas offense. I think on this one they're actually going to toss it with the tailback being on pistol, but it's the same idea. We're going to get 2 pullers out in front. We're going to try to go build the wall here. You're going to kick the first guy. Now this is awful leverage from the Arkansas State defense. You have a player that's head up on the tackle that I believe goes inside, and you don't have another outside defender until this dude that's about 7 yards away. You were asking for this play to be explosive. That is 100% what happens. Bad defense, solid execution, better running back. If Ole Miss, if Arkansas can get the edge in their run game, because I don't think they're great up the middle in the run game. It's how they stress the C gap. The outside perimeter run game is probably what would concern me the most if I'm preparing for this offense. And if you give them soft edges like that, they are certainly going to be effective. Here's another example of the exact same thing. The only difference now is they're going to take motion, and they're going to give the quarterback this RPO on the backside. He can throw the swing route out here to the guy that's in motion, or he can hand off the buck sweep coming back to the offense's right. Here, again, think about the clip I showed you earlier of the Ole Miss defense. We saw 4 guys end up out there over that bubble route, okay, in the flat. Here, the linebacker expands, the DN does not, which is a big difference between what we saw in the Ole Miss clip. Now they're still 4 over 3, okay? So here come the numbers back to the field. Arkansas State has the worst stunt they could have on. They're taking this guy who they need here to set an edge. They're actually using him to loop. It is very unfortunate timing for their defensive coordinator. There's the pull, the kick, the wrap, and again, there's the running back off to the races. I don't expect Pete Golding to make it this easy on the Arkansas offense, but I also think we all have to recognize that sometimes you're just in the wrong call. Sometimes it is going to work like that for the offense. Now, you talk about Green and you talk about his decision-making. Did he throw 2 picks against Arkansas State? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so here's one of them, all right? One thing Petrino loves is he loves a deep corner with the curl route, somebody in the flat. It's pretty standard. The backside here, they ran this concept a few times. On this one, it looks like he's running the dig. He's going to pull and expand out. There's another time where the receiver, instead of a dig, runs a post. So I don't know if it's 2 different calls, different reads, and the wide receiver is responsible for reading and kind of taking grass. Okay, but here, Green likes the backside of the concept. He starts front side. He doesn't like it. He comes backside. And this is exactly what I showed you Ole Miss trying to do earlier on the very first play I showed you, the clip from the Ole Miss Kentucky game. It's a similar concept. You're expecting the route by number 8 to come in and grab that linebacker and pull him back out to expand this window to open the dig. The linebacker does not bait it. He knows he's got help outside from his corner, so he sits in the window, makes the interception. Okay? This is a very simple read for the quarterback. He has got to see that underneath defender right there, and he can't throw that thing into the window. I mean, even if 5 does not intercept this ball, I can't tell you that this guy's not in position to make a play on it either. I don't think he picks it off, but he's in solid position. Kind of last one from this game. Actually, I got 2 more. Okay, here's another example of that same kind of idea. Okay, they're going to run that same post curl or corner curl to the top. Same kind of deal to the bottom, but now instead of the dig, you see he works the post. Okay, all right, quarterback's in the pocket, eyes downfield. The reality is his curl window is open. If he's reading the front side of his progression, when this linebacker expands and the mic does not push any wider, he should be driving that ball in this window right now.
Yep.
He does not drive the ball. He sits. He gets out of the pocket. Now, he's hell to pay with his feet. You better protect him right here. And this is a really nice throw on the run. The receiver does a good job in scramble drill. This was almost a bad decision because there's almost another underneath player to pick it
he
off.
almost gets a pick right there.
He almost does turn this ball over again. But when we talk about that progression and the comfortability in the offense, these 2 plays don't indicate that it's maybe as high as some fans might want to believe.
Yeah, he's really, and look, he's an elite athlete, but he is so dependent on that athleticism.
Showed you Kentucky put 3-by-1 empty into the boundary. They did it with a tight end. Petrino's not using a tight end here. Exact same idea. Pretty simple read for the quarterback. Safeties are split. This guy, is he going to get to the middle of the field? If he doesn't, that's probably where I'm going with the football. Okay, so as the play starts here, his eyes go to that safety. That safety comes down and opens this way. That means that this dude cannot be right. If he takes this corner, there is nobody in the middle of the field. If he takes the middle of the field, that corner is open, and you've got an easy check down on the outside. Safety stays to the field. This guy is deep, trying to play between the 2. There it is, in rhythm. It's a good ball. Almost scores.
Yeah.
Right? Bobby Petrino has ways to make it very easy for the quarterback, especially if the defense allows them to make it easy for the quarterback. So I was curious. I wanted to go back to last year, and this is kind of wrap up on these last few clips right here. But I went back to last year to look at how did Petrino play Golding, how did Golding play Petrino, and I already talked about the dominance of the front 4 here, okay? But again, we talk about Bobby Petrino is who Bobby Petrino is. There is a post. There's a wheel. Instead of it being a dig by number 3, he's going to run an out route right there, and there's going to be some type of a shallow coming from the backside. Okay. Here, the linebacker shows down, pops out late. He's got the open stick route or wheel or out route right there by the number 3 guy. He just puts it on him. Easy throw and catch. The effect of the wheel route here does what called it flushes the flat defender. The defender that's responsible for that space is now vacated because he has had to run with that wheel route. So now when you can complete that easy out route, the guy's got room to go. Plenty of space. Easy throw and catch. Isolate as many things as he can for his quarterback. The other thing, and if I go all the way back to the beginning of this concept, and you can kind of see it here, but you see it better from the end zone, they started with 3 receivers to the right, a tight end to the right, and a tailback, and then they shifted to empty. They're trying to get them into a certain check. They're trying to force Pete Golding out of the call he wants to be in to get into something else to open up the space. It's good, simple design by the Arkansas offense. Okay, a little bit later in the same game, here's another example of that same post wheel shallow. Okay, to the field again. You're going to get a post by the outside guy. You're going to get a dig here. There's the running back on the wheel. Here comes the backside shallow. Okay, he's going to take the picture. Do I have the post or the wheel? No. 23 is expanding. Find my shallow. Give it to him. Let him run. Ole Miss is going to have to do a great job handling crossing routes against this Bobby Petrino offense. Another one from last year. Okay, this is again goes back to just the ability to communicate as a defense, being confident in your scheme. Okay, and I'm going to show it real quickly from the wide, and then I'm going to go to the end zone copy. So Arkansas just runs a simple zone read scheme. You watch, I believe it's Perkins up top, play this, and he steps down the line, and he is basically playing that right there to take the running back. And as the running back comes out of the mesh into the line, he's going to turn and take him. That technique tells me he's expecting the linebacker to replace him now and take the quarterback if and when the quarterback pulls it. If you go to the end zone, you can see it really well. As this tackle steps down and the running back gets here in the mesh and the quarterback is now looking at Perkins, he has one of two jobs. His job is to either stay square, shuffle, and be ready to redirect if the quarterback pulls it. But if he's shuffling like that, he's probably trying to force the handoff because now Ole Miss has every gap accounted for, however the defensive line ends up distributing, okay? If he comes down the line and turns to take the running back like he does, then typically you're expecting the linebacker to replace him. It's what's called a scrape exchange and take the quarterback. Here, Perkins takes the running back, so does the linebacker, and now Green is on the edge by himself for a first down. Okay? It's actually the play where he injured or re-injured the ankle in the game, I believe.
Yep.
Okay? Here's another clip. All right? Very similar to what I showed you earlier where they lined up and empty. Same idea here. They're going to get to it slightly differently. They motion the running back out. These are their two tight ends. Okay? I believe this is Haas, who now plays for Ole Miss. But now they're going to put this guy on the corner, and he's going to end up in that same middle of the field post landmark. You're going to get the same mirrored concept on the backside. Look at the space in the middle of the field. What's the safety going to do? He sees the corner first. He takes it. There goes Haas inside. And if the Ole Miss defensive line does not generate the pressure they generate right here and get to the quarterback, that ball thrown in rhythm right there is an explosive play.
Yeah.
It's repetition of scheme. That's what makes Bobby Petrino's offense very quarterback friendly. And the reason you see so much production, there's a ton of repetition. He can get to this concept probably 5 or 6 different ways in his game plan. From a quarterback standpoint, it doesn't change my thought process. I'm just redistributing how the bodies get to the same landmarks. He does the same thing with so many of his concepts. It is a big part of his success. Okay. This one right here, again, back to the idea of the buck sweep or the pin and pull. Okay, here, Arkansas is going to get in an unbalanced set right here. Try to stress the defense. There's the pin and pull. Walk into the end zone because they've got the defense out-hatted. The math is not mathing. 1 to block 1, 2 to block 2, 3 to block 3. First guy's going to pull and kick him out. The second guy is going to pull, end up here. And if you can get to this linebacker, you got to play. That's exactly what happens right there. Walk in. I expect to see that run scheme a lot from this Arkansas offense. Okay. 2 more clips I'm going to show you, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up, and these kind of build on each other here. Okay. Play action shot right here. Okay. 7-man protect with a chip release. Ole Miss does a ton of this type of scheme. So they're going to take this single receiver, and he's going to release on the post. He is trying to flush this safety. They're going to take this player and bring him underneath on the shallow route. He's essentially my check down, and this player is going to run this deep cross. If this safety chases the post and the corner chases the post, then I'm probably going to hit the crossing route. If the corner falls off to take the crossing route, and the safety stays on the post, then I'm probably taking my underneath player because the linebackers are going to be affected by the play action. It's exactly what happens right here. Okay. Number 3 and the safety are over the top of the post right there. The cross is a little late getting there. He feels the pressure in the pocket. He takes the shallow route, turns into a big play right there. Arkansas moves the chains. Again, back to that theme of understanding post followed by an opposite field crosser. And then here's the last one I'm going to show you. Okay. Again, Bobby's going to get to those same landmarks he's been getting to. He's going to find different ways to do it. So he's going to continue to divide the field. He's going to go here and here to try to bring those safeties. He has given you so many shallow routes. Your linebackers are sitting on those shallow routes. Your safeties are passing off shallow routes to take the deep threats. So he's going to start on his shallow route, and as he gets underneath this corner, he is then going to burst to the middle of the field. It's getting right back to the same landmark those empty clips are getting back to right here. There he is underneath, vertical. Again, if the pocket's clean, it's there for a big play to the receiver versus this split field coverage look by the Ole Miss defense.
It helps to have 4 NFL defensive linemen.
Listen, turns out it pays off.
Go figure.
I'm looking for a couple of those myself.
I bet.
So, because when I've had them, I've been pretty good.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So again, I hope that the look at Kentucky versus the Ole Miss Ole Miss defense, and particularly seeing so many things that I thought translated to this week's game. If you're an Ole Miss fan, set the edge in the run game. Control the quarterback's legs and be ready for crossers. And if you do those things, I think it's good. I don't believe enough in the Arkansas defense, and that's not me trying to put them down. I haven't seen enough. I don't believe enough.
Yep.
I've seen enough explosive plays from the Arkansas State offense to believe that Ole Miss, regardless of which quarterback plays, can have success on offense. Will they be amazing? I can't tell you that. I don't know. Some of that is going to come down to who's healthy, who's available, how do they call the game. I think it's going to really come down to Ole Miss's ability to control the line of scrimmage and the quarterback's run, and then the ability to be sound in coverage and not give up easy throws that turn into explosive plays.
End of the day, this should be an Ole Miss win, right? I mean, this is a game that on paper they should win.
I feel like I'm bucking the trend online today if I say that Ole Miss should win. But I feel like a healthy Ole Miss team is the better football team.
Yeah, I do too. All right, Pete, as always, great stuff. We'll be back next week. It's Ole Miss and Tulane in Oxford, 2:30 Central start on I can't remember what network. I get all the networks confused. It's at 2:30. It's Ole Miss and Tulane next week. That's been ironed out. Then the weekend after that, it's the wrap up of I guess it's a 4-game homestand over 5 weeks. There's LSU, then an open date, then Washington State. So Tulane and then LSU. So play some Louisiana teams starting next week. Again, Ole Miss and Arkansas, 6 p.m. Vaught Hemingway on Saturday. On ESPN, we'll have post-game coverage here at MPW Digital, and then lots of coverage at Rebels247.com as well. So for Pete DeWeese, I'm Neil McCready. Until next week, take care.